Sure.
What up?
What's up, son? Holmes? My dude. My biatch.
Intro.
Okay. Right? Like a boss. Mic drop.
So, dude,
Dude, Ed.
we're going to be talking about, like, I don't know, finds and reads and all that random stuff. Because I finally got to the comic shop, so I've got some of my stuff that I've been waiting for, which is cool.
A quick shoot through in the morning.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that. I do have too much to read now, which is a good problem to have, I suppose. So
It is a good problem to have. And then I'm sure you're going to run into the problem I get where I had this plan. Like, this is what I'm going to read. And we commit to it on our channel. And then I float past my bookshelf and I'm like, Or, like what happened to me, a few new finds and that all arrive. And I go, I actually really want to see this. So, okay, I'll quickly read it and then... Okay, cool, awesome, and then life happens, and then I don't get to some of the stuff that I've committed to. So.
yeah, and also I suppose there's something that maybe it's something you've been looking for years, like, and you've kind of forgotten, and you find it, and you're like, oh, I found it, so I want to read it now, and it's like,
yeah. So you'll probably run into that little cycle too, where you all good intentions to read X, Y, or Z, and then suddenly, oh, okay, let me give this one a knock. So, good luck. Welcome to the nightmare that is comic book collecting.
So, dude, do you want to start or must I?
Yeah, okay, I can start. And some of the stuff that I read recently that I did want to punt on our channel is digests. I think most people would know the digests from, I think Archie Comics made them famous. And I know my association with them has always been, when I was a kid, some folks had reading material in their bathrooms, and if it wasn't naughty magazines or National Geographic or something, it was Archie Digests.
It's funny how that's become a thing of the past. There always used to be like that Stephen King book, or like all the stuff you mentioned, or
Dude, you know what? I think it got replaced by these. I think people sit in the bathroom and they catch up on social media, texting, or just play a game while they're in there on their mobile. So sadly, the written medium has fallen away, and I mean, ironically, on the back of this one, there's a whole bunch of, ads for Archie Comics and Archie, I don't know if it's digest or regular size comics, but it's just something that I love about this, and Marvel did a run, I think they got up to like issue 10, regularly bringing out these digests, and it wasn't all Spider-Man, so one digest would be Spider-Man, then the X-Men, then Guardians of the Galaxy, Venom, whatever it was. And inside, what's quite awesome about it is they give you a little run. I can show some of the art, I suppose. It's like old school.
yeah, guys, we're still not sure which camera picks up what, so bear with us.
It's old school, and I'm trying to remember. I think this was potentially Steve Ditko art over here in this particular story. It's a whole story with Spidey fighting some villains, and then this it's kind of like almost a return of Doc Ock. And it's cool. It's definitely from the probably 60s, 70s type story. The dialogue at times is quite interesting. The costumes that they have here is interesting.
And dude, in terms of pricing, do you know how it differs to TPs and single issues?
I'll be honest, if I remember correctly, when I was buying these, they were around about the $100 mark.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're quite thick when you look at what's in there. And like I say, you're getting the first, I'd say easily third of this is this whole Spidey Doc Ock story that's in here. So, I dare say 4 to 5, maybe even 6 issues. So, pretty decent. And then the second half of it is a story that was, again, apparently plotted and designed by Stanley and Steve Ditko. And then the artist was a guy named Mark Brooks.
Okay.
I don't know, man. There's something about Mark Brooks' art. Ooh, we're using a focus close up. Look at that. Mark Brooks' art over there. And I just really dug it, man. It was very modernized. his colorings.
Did he not do Spectacular Spider-Man?
Could have.
Or am I just wrong? I don't know why there's just... I haven't read Spectacular Spider-Man, but I just remember the covers.
I'll be honest with you, dude. I'm not 100% sure. I actually have a whole... It could have been Spectacular Spider-Man digest run as well that he was the artist on. So you might be 100% right. It was probably started out as large comics. They reprinted them in digests, and I picked them all up from the comic shop. Geez, back in the 90s or so. I got Fantastic Four ones, Spider-Man ones. And like I say, only recently did Marvel start doing these again. And this has got, this whole Mark Brooks run. It's got a Vulture story. There's a Sinister Six story in here, which is amazing. And then right at the end, it's got one little random story. And I'm trying to see who the artist is and stuff. But I mean, it's from the Spider-Man animated cartoon that was out.
Okay.
And this is... It's one of my favorite takes on Spidey because this is very much more chirpy than the normal sort of Spider-Man. And I think if I'm in here somewhere, there's a Deadpool story. So again, right from the TV cartoon show.
Okay, yeah.
And Spider-Man goes on a little adventure with Deadpool. Very cool little story to it. And they face up against Taskmaster. And it's just, so dare say 3 different stories and meaty stories in one digest for around about 100 and something bucks that you pick them up for. So I'm sad that Marvel aren't doing them. I'm sad DC doesn't do a lot of them. I think DC's doing ones based on the animated show with the female characters from DC, DC Girls or whatever it's called. I know Devin collects a couple of those, but it's just a medium, should I say, a version of the medium that I think is lacking a little bit.
It's interesting you said it, because the first thing that came to mind is it feels a bit like of a missed opportunity and short-sightedness, because if you can get past the I'm collecting for value single issue sort of mindset and it's just about reading, it's a really good point of entry for new readers.
Definitely.
Or young kids, like their mom would buy them, a small little book that doesn't take up much space, and they can sort of grow to like the medium. So it 100%. Seems like a lot of short-sightedness from the publishers to go, let's release this, even aim it, more like kids-based stories and stuff.
And I mean, the paper is the good old-fashioned recycled comic paper that we were used to from original comics before they overglossed them, made them high-quality paper, etc. So again, I don't know much about the printing side of the business. I don't know how much something like this takes for them to produce. But it just makes sense for me to keep both publishing houses, even some of the independent guys, to look at doing some good stories in this format. So like you say, parents can go and say, let me grab that for my kid. There's a good 3 decent, meaty, fun stories in this thing for my kid to blast through. At a decent price point, because if you think about some of the new comics coming out, I think we dare say like the new Metal run that's going to come out is probably going to be around about $100 per issue. So these were 100, maybe 150, somewhere in that price band, to get 3 stories at least. Different artists, different writers.
Bad,
100%. So I definitely wanted to show off the digest medium for the regular stringent Archie fans out there. Archie comics still pump out the digests on a regular basis, so they've seen the value in keeping this version of the medium out there in the market. So,
and it's interesting because I think that's what the Archie media sort of, medium, whatever you want to call it, has gotten right, because I could be wrong, this could be nonsense, but they've like stayed away from that typical superhero value, hype, investment. It's literally, I could easily say 99% of the people that read Archie read it because they're reading for story.
100%.
And I think that's why the digest makes so much sense. So the whole superhero thing has kind of lost its way, but
I think you're right. And what I've heard about the Archie side of things is I think there's a good healthy mix of old school, olden day Archie comics intermixed with some more modern stories that have come out. So you can have one where the dialogue, the aesthetic is dated back in the 60s, and then in the same digest you'll probably have one that's more recent, with cell phones and computers and stuff in there the guys are talking about and using. So I like that, because it also exposes new readers, like you were saying, to how things were, and they might find that they like that. They might find they like that view into the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I really would encourage the main guys to push out more digests. They're fun.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And they're easy to collect. It's smaller. You can put them on a little bookshelf somewhere or whatever. And you get
Maybe stick them in your bathroom again, bring back a trend.
Yeah. But yeah, I do have another one that I'll talk about now, but on your side, what have you got?
So, dude, yeah, two titles that actually stick out that I've been looking for is I've been hearing about this, and it's not super new anymore.
Yes.
But it's Batman White Knight. And I've heard like nothing but crazy stuff about Sean Murphy.
Show to that one.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
So
Sean Murphy, the writer.
yeah, and apparently, yeah. Let's do this for fun.
Ooh, get all creative and let's open it up.
And I mean, I've looked at the interiors because I own some of the single issues, and I loved what like the art and all that. So yeah, dude, it's just I keep hearing recurringly good stuff about it, and it is DC Black Label, so I know it's going to be on the darker side.
Yeah. That was sort of the wasn't it a role reversal kind of comic?
Yeah, so I think that's what I've heard, where in some weird way Batman becomes bad, Joker becomes good. It's something to that effect. So yeah, I'm keen to read it. That's one of my finds. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is it's Dark Knight, a true Batman story.
Oh yes.
Paul Dini.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, and the cover just looks. And I mean, even Neil Gaiman, I know he does a lot of these like recommendations and stuff.
Yeah, I think this was potentially, I stand to be corrected, but could have been the last title that Vertigo printed.
Oh wow!
Under the Vertigo banner before it changed to DC Black.
Yeah. So, and dude, there wasn't much research done behind this. I just saw the cover and I was like,
Oh really?
That just looks like something I would dig. So
I can give you context on it. I'm looking for that one myself. When I say looking, I just haven't actually taken one from the comic store. But the basic premise was the story there is based on Paul Dini at some point. I don't know if it was recent or back when he was doing the animated show. He went out on a date with somebody, and then after the date he got mugged, and it wasn't simple mugging, and he walked away from it. They beat him and brutalized him. He was hospitalized from that mugging, and this whole story is based on his sort of road to recovery, and not just on a physical side but also a psychological, mental side, and the emotions he had to deal with during that time. So the way he's done the book, there's moments where he's having these thoughts and it's Batman trying to sort of give him strength and encourage him, and then other times he has more dark thoughts where it's Joker sort of sitting on his shoulder talking to him, fueling dark revenge types of thoughts. And apparently I've heard it's not just those two, so other characters from the Batman animated universe come through, potentially a Scarecrow, Two-Face, or whatever it is, that all talk to him. And he has these sort of inner monologues going on.
That's amazing, dude. It's made me want to read it even more. But I mean, for me, it's Batman, it's Paul Dini, because I mean, Paul Dini's done like a lot of Zatanna and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's instant. Yeah.
So now you know why that cover is like that, because that's supposed to be Paul Dini, brutalized Paul Dini.
So that's
and
cool.
then the characters there trying to help him through this and cope with what happened to him, deal with the trauma.
Nice. Yeah. And then the last two, I mean, you mentioned it a lot, me not so much, but it's from our Ed Piscor.
Kayfabe effect.
Yeah, so it's the two grand designs. Obviously the other one's Tom Scioli.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, and then X-Men by Ed Piscor. And there's a few reasons besides the fact that, I mean, you've recommended it, and it's them, and they know their shit. Like, dude, I'm just, for the longest time, I've been, especially, we talk about this, joke about this, how I'm like just so DC leaned. So, I mean, I know a little bit about Fantastic Four. I know enough about X-Men to get by in a conversation. But, because they've like pulled it all together and sort of, it's a grand design. It's like this sort of telling and gluing everything together. I think it's going to be good schooling for me. To to refresh my memory and kind of like and teach myself a bit more about the characters and stuff. So that's why it was a simple 2 buys for me to get.
The cool thing about this one, if you turn it at different angles, the Invisible Woman is over there
Oh, I see that now. That's cool. I want to see if we can capture that.
Very funky, huh?
Sorry, I see we've left this. So that is the...
So if you like turn it...
Yeah, there we got it. That's very cool, man. I did not know that. We need to tell the people at the comic book shop that. They probably don't even know that.
It's awesome, hey? And I think I think that goes from like Fantastic Four 1 up to around the 50 mark, the coming of Galactus. And Tom Scioli kind of just filling all the gaps there, which is basically what they did with these grand designs. So there's a lot of homage art in there across the panels for that. They literally found it in various comics and then redrew it in their own style. And then there's also their own panel interpretations of what happened from this issue to that issue in the back end that the reader probably didn't get. And in their minds, that's what fills the gap there. So they're awesome. And the thing I like about those, again, talking about different versions of the medium, I like the Treasury Edition size comics. I think they cram in some of the panels. You'll probably get at least 9 to 12 panels per page.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I don't have any Treasury style like size. So that's also, it was a cool addition to my, my TP collection is becoming more and more diverse, which is 100%. What I've wanted, yeah.
So I like those. I mean, they did come out in slightly oversized comic books, but for me, these collected editions in Treasury sizes, it just does it so much more justice than those original comics do. And I like that. I every now and again, guys should do that, explore it. Treasury editions, digest editions, whatever the case might be, absolute editions, or I think they call them deluxe editions in the Dark Horse and Image sort of worlds there. It gives you the stories.
It's a new experience, you know, like, and that's why, like, dude, I know Batman Damned had a whole, the other controversy around it about Batman's dick and all that. And it to me, it took away from it because they tried it. It was a more magazine sort of styled format. And I loved that they were playing with it. And even like the art style was like it was not mixed media, but it was sort of edging towards there. So I like when people play with these things and experiment with new sort of forms. It keeps things exciting.
100%. And I think from the creator side of things, if the artist knows that it's going to be in this oversized, larger format, I think it gives them more room to with some of their art and some of their ideas that definitely come through, and you'll see it in those grand designs, man. I love them. They're amazing. The next digest that I wanted to talk about was the Runaways. Runaways. And I actually have the entire run of Runaways in digest format.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it is the original story that first came out. I forget who it was. Brian K. Vaughan who wrote it, I think. And the artist was Adrian Alfona. But, there you can see, dude, very decent art. Let's zoom on to that there. Get it in there.
Try and get some...
Yeah. And for those that don't know the story about the Runaways, is there are a bunch of kids that have or discover that they've got these abilities and powers. But they also, more importantly, discover that their parents are part of this supervillain cabal or league. I don't know what you want to call it. They are just normal kids, but then trying to just sort of adapt to the fact that their parents are supervillains, bad, etc.
I'm interested. Have you seen the TV show?
I did watch the TV show. I watched the first season. I haven't seen... I think there's a second season out already, but the first season was a very good...
Oh, I want to ask if it's... Okay, that's good to know.
And the casting was very good. When you look at the characters here and you compare them to their versions in the TV show, very good casting.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, because I've only seen the TV show, and some of the characters, I'm like, oh, okay.
You know
that
exactly
dude,
So, very, very good. I think the TV show was a solid representation of this. That's why I'm keen to see season 2, etc. But, again, it's just... I wouldn't have picked up Runaways. No one in the comic shop at the time knew much about it. I wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't in this format, because it was a cheaper read. At that time, I was getting regular comics, not a lot of graphic novels, but I was picking up those SpiderMan ones, the Fantastic Four digest ones, and I'd gotten all of the ones that were there, and then this was the next thing. So I thought, I'll get a digest collection going, let me just buy these. And then I sat down and read this, and I was just like, this is an amazing story, holy crap. So got the entire thing just on the basis of that pure price point, bang for my buck.
And you see that reaffirms what we were saying earlier. But like, say for instance, Marvel or DC aren't sure about a title, and it's not Superman, it's not, it just makes sense for them to try it out and see how it does in digest and go, okay, people are growing on this character.
100%.
Let's make collector editions, TPs, single issues. So again, I know I'll never know all the logistics.
Yeah, I think this is 1 to 6. So I mean, you're getting the first entire arc, proper TP thickness and everything, just in a slightly oversized digest size. I think it's just a little bit bigger than a normal digest, but it's amazing. For me, it just makes sense, and it was a nice, easy read. You didn't lose a lot of the art in the slightly reduced format. So yeah, definitely something that.
And tell me, dude, I know, like you said, obviously they're not making them anymore, but can you still get these in normal bookshops or not?
Sure, that is a very good question.
I think it'd probably differ from place to place. Like, here in the States.
I know the Runaways was a very popular title, and I know they re-released all of the Runaways stories, especially when the TV show was coming. So TPs, probably Omnis, etc. You could probably get the Runaways in that, probably 1 or 2 omnibuses. So I'm confident that it's in print and out there. This kind of reduced format digest thing, I don't know. I'm not sure. Because like I said, this is old. This is from like...
I mean, do they have ISBN numbers?
I think they do, their ISBN.
Okay. So there's a chance that at like your normal bookstores, I'm just thinking for, maybe like, young parents and stuff that don't want to especially go to a comic book store and they're buying a book for themselves, and they could maybe grab some old ones for their kids that they might still be stock. So it's just what I was pondering.
This definitely makes sense for a bookstore to stock, because it's probably the same size as a lot of their soft cover book. Look at the dimensions and everything. Yeah. So it just so many makes sense to me to have, and I just don't know why the main publishers aren't doing them, because...
Dude, I honestly think people underestimate the power of this whole collector's hype, and people just see it as like, oh, well, that's a waste of money. It depends how you value what you buy. But so I think if people could get over that, and I still think there is a big market for people that just go in and get what they want to read.
Sure, 100%.
But they're not spouting out about the next biggest thing. So, yeah, it's tricky, man. It was...
One more time? Do you want to restart?
I was going to say, it always will be, I guess, until it all explodes in itself and we have another 90s crash or whatever.
I don't think we're that far away from that.
It's coming.
Yeah.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.